Most creators are doing this wrong. It's not because they're lazy. It's not because they lack talent. And it's not because their content is bad. In fact, some of the most trapped operators and creators I talk to are actually making great content. Their videos are polished. Their podcasts are insightful and well produced. The courses are helpful. Their films beautifully made. Their communities are engaged. And yet they are exhausted. They're stressed. Revenue is inconsistent. Growth feels fragile. Everything depends on the next upload, the next launch, the next post, the next algorithm push. And eventually they start asking, why does this feel so unstable? The answer is uncomfortable because content isn't actually the business. And if you build your entire professional life around creating more and more content without building the systems, the assets, the relationships, and all the infrastructure underneath, well, you haven't built a business. You've built a job, and it has you on a treadmill. Today, I want to help you get off that treadmill and show you how to think and operate like a creator CEO, totally in command of your business and your income. Hey there, friends. I'm Gordon Firemark. I'm an entertainment, media, and business attorney. And for more than 3 decades, I've helped creators and creator-driven businesses protect, structure, and grow what they're building. In some circles, I'm actually known as the podcast lawyer because I've spent years helping podcasters navigate the legal and the business side of building shows and media brands. But my work has always gone far beyond just podcasting. I work with YouTubers, filmmakers, writers, producers, theater makers, online educators, course creators, coaches, membership businesses, influencers, authors, speakers, performers, and entrepreneurs that use content and media to build influence and revenue. Because if you create media that attracts attention, that builds trust, or grows an audience, then you are part of the creator economy. And no matter the platform, I keep seeing the same problem. So many talented creators making content, building without building a business behind it. And honestly, the platforms actually love this because the more dependent you are on constantly publishing content, the more valuable you are to them. But the moment that you start building owned assets, owned audience, systems, products, infrastructure, intellectual property assets, recurring revenue, and leverage, well, that's when the game really starts to change. And that's what this episode is all about. And if you really hear what I'm saying today, it may completely change how you think about your future as a creator and as a business owner. So let's talk a little bit about that treadmill because most creators are stuck on it, whether they realize it or not. The creator economy trains people and teaches them that success comes from consistency, frequency, engagement, retention, posting schedules, optimization, hooks, thumbnails, trends, SEO, and feeding the algorithm. Now, listen, I'm not saying those things don't matter. They absolutely do matter, but they are not the business. They are marketing activities. And that distinction is actually incredibly important. Your podcast, marketing. Your YouTube channel, marketing. Your Instagram, marketing. Your newsletter is marketing. Your TikTok, absolutely, that's marketing. Your webinars are marketing. Even your course content or your documentary film or your stage production or your educational content may actually not be the business that you need it to be. They may simply be the engine that powers the business. And when creators fail to understand that distinction, everything starts to feel unstable, uncertain. Because if your entire livelihood depends on attention and reach and impressions, views, engagement, likes, those kinds of things, then your business could disappear the moment that attention shifts. And attention always shifts. Platforms change. Algorithms change. Audience behavior, very fickle. Technology changes. Monetization models change. We've seen this happen over and over again. Remember when Facebook pages had huge organic reach? Gone. Remember when everybody said Vine creators had it made? Remember Vine? Gone. Remember when podcast advertising money felt like it was sort of endless? Well, that market tightened too. You're watching YouTube evolve constantly. TikTok's future changes every few months. Search traffic is shifting because of AI, and email deliverability keeps changing and the goalposts get moved. If your entire business depends on the platform continuing to behave the way it behaves today, that's not stability, that's exposure. And here's the part most creators never really stop to think about. Why do platforms keep encouraging creators to produce more and more content? It's because the platform's business model depends on it. The more content creators publish, the more attention the platform captures. And the more attention they capture, the more ads the platform can sell. And that's the real machine. And to keep creators feeding that machine, the platform started sharing little slices of their ad revenue. YouTube did it, Facebook did, TikTok did, Instagram, you name it. Now, don't get me wrong, there is nothing inherently bad about collecting some of that ad revenue. It could absolutely become part of a smart monetization strategy. But it was never intended to make you wealthy. It was designed to incentivize continuous content production that benefits the platform first. That job we talked about. And unfortunately, many creators accidentally built their entire operating models around chasing those small revenue shares. That's just plain dangerous because the platform controls the rules, the algorithms, the monetization terms, the discoverability, and ultimately the economics. That's why smart creators eventually realize that the real opportunity isn't just monetizing attention, it's converting attention into assets you own and control. And this is where things start to get painful because many creators are actually doing everything they've been taught to do. They're disciplined, they're consistent, hardworking, they're posting constantly, they're learning how to edit, they're improving their storytelling, studying thumbnails, researching titles, watching analytics. And yeah, they still feel stuck. Why? Because they accidentally built a system where you must constantly continue in order for the revenue to continue. That's not leverage. That's dependency. And eventually, it's bound to lead to burnout. Now, I see this all the time with the creators that I work with. They launch their shows or their channels. They spend years building up an audience just so they can get sponsorships. But then they realize that the sponsorship income only exists if the content keeps flowing. And unless they've got a really big audience, well, it's not even that great money anyway. The moment they slow down, the revenue slows down too. And for many creators, that realization can be sort of emotionally devastating. They thought they were building freedom. And what did they do? They accidentally built another job for themselves. And sometimes it's a really demanding one. So what is the business? Well, this is the belief shift I really want you to take on. The business is the systems, the customer journey, the audience relationship, the intellectual property, and operational infrastructure. It's the brand, the products, the licensing, the partnerships, the data, the processes, the team, the contracts, and all of the other assets. The content creates attention. Now, the business has to capture value. That's the difference. Walt Disney understood this almost a century ago. His cartoons were not the business. It's the characters that were created in the cartoons that were. That intellectual property was the business. That licensing opportunity was the business. The parks, the merchandise, the experiences, that whole ecosystem became the business. The content was simply the attention engine. Now, obviously, most creators aren't trying to become Walt Disney, but the principle still applies. Some smart creators understand that content should lead somewhere. It should build relationships and trust, ownership, community, data, products, customer pathways, and opportunities. That's why some creators with relatively modest audiences make enormous incomes, while other creators with gigantic audiences struggle financially. One built attention, while the other built infrastructure. Now, this may be the most important thing that I say in this episode. Here it is. Followers are not assets. Subscribers, not assets. Views are not assets. Likes are definitely not assets. They are indicators of attention, but that's different. An email list you own and control, that's closer to being an asset. A customer database, asset. Audience data, very valuable asset. Understanding your audience behavior, preferences, purchasing patterns, engagement habits, interests, needs, and their customer journey, that is incredible, valuable business intelligence. Smart creator CEOs understand that data creates leverage because the creator who understands their audience deeply can make better offers, build smarter products, improve marketing, create partnerships, and grow far more strategically. That is part of why owned audience matters so much, because platform followers are borrowed. But audience data and customer relationships, well, those can become real business assets fast. A recognizable protected brand, asset. Trademark, asset. Repeatable system, asset. Licensable intellectual property, assets. Recurring revenue, definitely an asset. And community relationships you control, operational processes, documented systems, all assets. The trouble is that many creators are building their entire careers on rented land, those platforms. And rented land is very dangerous because the landlord makes the rules. This is why I am constantly encouraging creators to move people off the platform and into email, into communities and memberships, into customer relationships, and into ecosystems they control. Because the creator economy is maturing, and the creators who survive long term are going to be the ones who own their audience relationships, who build that infrastructure, have the systems in place, and yes, they own and control the intellectual property, not just the attention, but what they're attending to. So let me ask you, if your primary platform, whether it's podcasting or film or YouTube or whatever, were to disappear tomorrow, what would still remain there for you? Would you still have customers, a community? Would you have products? Would they be selling? Would you have systems in place, recurring revenue? What about legal ownership, operational infrastructure? Or would everything vanish at the whim of the algorithm? That question matters more than most creators realize. So, over the past year or so, you've probably heard me talking about the idea of becoming a modern media mogul. And I still believe deeply in that concept because I think that creators should be thinking bigger about ownership and leverage, infrastructure, intellectual property, and building real enterprise value around what they create. But I've also realized something important, and that is that not everybody connects with the word mogul. Some creators hear that word and think, I don't want a giant empire. I'm not trying to become Walt Disney. I just want a sustainable, profitable, creative business and a good life. And honestly, that's fair. Maybe that's you. So lately, I've been talking more about this idea of being a creator CEO. Because whether your goal is a massive media company, a thriving education business, a successful production company, a sustainable creator brand, or simply more freedom and stability, the mindset shift is the same. You have to stop thinking only like a content creator and start thinking like the owner of a business that uses content strategically. The creator CEO understands that content is just the front end. The business is the back end. The creator CEO asks different questions, not how do I get more views, but how do I create more leverage with what I've got? Not what should I post today, but what system does this content support? Not how do I go viral, but how do I create durable business value? That's a very different mindset. And honestly, it changes almost every business decision. The creator CEO builds offers and systems and infrastructure, repeatable processes, a complete customer pathway. They build partnerships, products, licensing, protections, and long-term asset libraries. The content becomes the entry point, and it's not the entire business model. And this matters whether you're a podcaster, a filmmaker, a course creator, a theater producer, an influencer, educator, a consultant, whatever, because all of these businesses are vulnerable if they depend entirely on ongoing attention generation. And this is where the legal and business side becomes incredibly important. Because once creators start building real businesses, the stakes change. Now, suddenly, ownership matters. Contracts matter. Trademarks matter. Licensing matters. Entity structure, collaboration agreements, operating agreements, intellectual property rights, all of these things matter. And revenue participation, that matters too. Creators who ignored those things early on often find themselves paying for it later. I've seen co-host disputes that destroy podcasts. Filmmakers lose the rights to their projects, YouTube partnerships collapsing, creators losing control of their brand names, businesses implode over handshake agreements, and partnerships that explode the moment real money starts showing up. Because when there's no structure, everything feels fine, right up until it doesn't. And honestly, that's one of the reasons I'm so passionate about helping creators understand the business side of what they're building. Not because legal stuff is exciting. Most people do not wake up thinking, you know what sounds fun today? Contracts. But because structure creates freedom, protection creates confidence, clarity creates growth. And when creators know the business side is handled properly, well, then they make better decisions. They take bigger swings. They grow more confidently. That's why I created my flagship course, Easy Legal for Podcasters, with its legal templates and the training and the workshops. And now the Creator CEO framework, because creators deserve access to all this knowledge before something else goes wrong, not after. And honestly, we cover these ideas much more deeply inside the Creator CEO Masterclass and throughout all of my training programs. So here's the big reframe that I want you to leave with today. Stop asking, how do I make more content? And start asking, what's the business this content is building? What relationships is it creating? What systems does it feed? What products does it support? What customer journey does it power? What assets does it build? What ownership does it strengthen? What leverage does it create? Because the creators who win in the long term, they're not just content creators. They are business builders who use content strategically. That's the shift. And honestly, once you see it, you can't unsee it. So, hey, if this episode challenged the way you've been thinking about your creator business, well, good. That means you're probably ready to take things to the next level. And if you'd like help thinking strategically about your creator business, you could schedule a strategy session with me. Just kind of head on over to firemark.com/strategy. And if you want to go deeper into this entire creator CEO approach, join me for my Creator CEO Masterclass on May 28th. You can register now at makeamogul.com. And if you've got value from this episode, subscribe, share it with other creators, and leave me a comment. What part of your business are you building beyond the content itself? What questions do you have? I'd love to hear from you and answer. So thanks for spending this time with me. I will see you next time here on Legit Podcast Pro. Have a great one.